for something completely different is Mr. John Bullock of Green Spec Light, a man who I understand was cruelly told earlier today that he must be much too old to be an entrepreneur in the Dragon's Den.
By one of the Lux staff.
But he's about to prove you wrong.
Absolutely.
John, take it away.
And by the way, we're all in down there for that, because we think that's really, really good. Hello, everyone. And greetings on this World Environment Day 2013. Don't beat yourself up if you weren't aware of that, because there's absolutely nothing in today's programme that suggests that the environment is on anyone's agenda here. So that's why I'm here instead. The lighting industry has done fantastic things over the last, ever since I've been in it, which is far too long. Everything that we do in terms of our efficacy, our lumens per watt figures, wonderful. We deal with our outputs so very, very, very well. Unfortunately, the world around us is starting to pay much more attention to our inputs and actually how we make our things, where we get them from, the materials that they're made from, how the processes are all put together. And so I'm here and I don't have a fitting. But then again, maybe I have lots of fittings, because all I've got to offer you is the future. Because I want to talk to you about the community of lighting manufacturers that needs to come together in order to create a proper, sustainable program for the future. Whenever I've spoken about this before, somebody goes, but who's asking for this apart from you? And it has to be said that the first time I ever stood up and spoke in public about the idea of sustainable behaviour in lighting manufacturers, I was the only person who was asking for it. However, when Sibsy go all Daily Express on us and produce a front cover like this, if you haven't, it says, costing the earth. That's where we all live, by the way. Why the building services industry must use the world's precious resources more efficiently. It's not a particularly good article, but at least it's a kick-off point for an organisation, again, which hasn't really looked at the inputs, because the M&E industry is so, again, fascinated by its outputs. So, I'm talking about a badge, simply. It's not like a Blue Peter badge where, you go and do something, you help an old lady across the road give you a badge. That's fine. No. This is more like one of those little bracelets that you get when you go to a festival, for which I'm far too old, as I've been told. But what it does is that the bracelet, the badge, opens doors for you. And it opens doors to a future. And that future is the one that's going to be determined by the construction industry. I would like to ask a question of all of us here. Is there anyone here who does not believe that their future is directly determined by the construction industry? I couched that question very, very well, because the reticence of anybody to put their hands up in a room like this. We are all determined. Everything that we do is determined by the construction industry, because everything that we make goes into buildings or goes along the side of something that's been made, like a road. So, at the moment, what we've got out there is an industry which is starting to look at things like, this is coming from the Building Research Establishment, and this is a little piece of paper about a thing called 6001, BES 6001, Framework Standard for the Responsible Sourcing of Construction Products. Let me say this, it is scary reading. But where we're going is that a lot of us are used to seeing pre-qualification questionnaires. And we're used to seeing the little thing about, have you got an environmental statement? Yeah, okay. Yes, we have. It's tucked in the back of our catalogue somewhere, and we can't remember what it says. Well, now, the buggers are actually going to have a standard that they can turn around and say, do you comply with BES 6001? And I suggest you all try and get hold of a copy of 6001 and just look at what that means. It's in a PQQ. It determines whether you're on the tender list or not. I am suggesting to you that the ownership of the badge is the thing that will help you beyond that tender list. It's a new way of looking at the future. It's a new way of looking at stuff. It's a process that says we make things, but we don't throw them away at the end. We have ideas about the way, what happens when things reach the end of their life. We have ideas about how we package stuff. We have ideas about the materials that we use. And all of that gets wrapped up and it gets put into a package, and that becomes the Green Spec Light accreditation standard for your business. Because it's no good doing it for yourself, because unfortunately there are people who tell porcupines. I know it's very, very difficult, and after 40 years in this industry, I'm ashamed to say that people do not always tell the truth. But the construction industry just think that we're a bunch of pirates and cowboys and downright liars. So what we need is an independent system, an independent accreditation code that says somebody on the outside, or nearly on the outside, who's able to say, these guys are doing it properly, these guys are doing it well. They may not have 14,001, they may not have 6,001, they may not have 9,001, but they're doing it properly, and we can tell you that. That independence is very, very important. And the other side of that is that, as well as having this wonderful community of lighting people, I love you all, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, but it gives us a lobbying voice back into the standards, back into the codes of practice, back into the people who are actually putting this stuff together. At the moment, we have no voice. So one day, the PQQ will drop on your desk and you will say, we can't fill this in. Damn, what are we going to do now? If only we'd listened to John way back then. And really, that's all I have to say.
So let's sum this up, John. What you're pitching.
Carry on.
You've not so much pitched a product as sort of a dream. Is that fair to say? And what you're talking about is a badge, an accreditation badge that companies can get.
It's a shorthand. It's a shorthand, exactly. So that when you do your when you are filling in your PQQ, you go, we are Green Spec Light accredited. By the way, this is a real pitch. Anybody who's interested in all of this, I need your money. So yeah.
And the idea is to give the person buying your product confidence that you are a green company.
It's as simple as that. There are accreditation systems for all sorts of things all around the industry. It's just in this one, the lighting sector, and by extension the M&E sector, because that's really where we need to pitch this more broadly, it doesn't exist. We've got to get in that because we've got to give the construction industry at its highest confidence that we know what we're doing.
How much does it cost?
Well, we've been talking about sort of annual fees of around about sort of $5,000 a year.
Right.
Which basically puts somebody on your doorstep talking about you and sort of guiding you to, maybe you should be looking at this, have you looked at that, what's this all about? It services you in order, and it also basically provides me with the funds to go and sit down and talk to people like BRE about what the hell they're doing, and etc.
Let's hear what the Dragons think. Andrew.
Hello, Andrew.
Hi, John. I think with all of these things, and I think BREEAM itself is a good example of this. When it first came out and I first worked on a project, Jaguar plant at Halewood many, many years ago, BREEAM had just come out. It was great. It made you stop and think. But where we've got to with BREEAM, I feel, at the moment, is it's now not keeping up with good design.
I agree.
We can design a building better and more efficiently and more sustainably, not using BREEAM, than we can if we have to use BREEAM. So I'm in favour of these things, but if it's written well and it's written by someone who knows what they're talking about, and this is where sometimes these things for me are dumbed down too much in order that it's simple for someone to check if you comply. But the trouble with dumbing it down is that it then doesn't work for people, everyone here, who knows what they're doing.
And
there's the danger for
the scam that I shouldn't say that. The scam that BRE are running is that, because I've spoken to them about this, I said, why can't we have things like sustainable procurement, responsible sourcing as part of BREEAM? Because the nearest you can get to it is in the little bit of the innovative bit at the end. In the LEAD program in America, the cradle-to-cradle people have got through the innovation side of things a route that if you are using a certain percentage of cradle-to-cradle product, I think it's impossible, the numbers, but nevertheless, if you're using a certain percentage of cradle-to-cradle products, you get a credit. Now, of course, what BRE have done is instead of trying to put it into BREEAM, they've introduced BES 6001. Ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching.
Exactly, and we've all seen buildings. We did the HSE building in Bootle many years ago, and they put in the correct number of bicycle places at the bottom of a 5-storey car park, and everyone goes there in the car. But they got the tick for it, and that's my concern with these things.
I'm not responsible for BREEAM, and I'm not here talking on
I appreciate
that, but
I think my nervousness would be, having seen likes of BREEAM, you'd have to have a look at the detail of that. And understand the complexity. I'd hate to see it dumbed down just to make it easy to check. Yeah.
Can I come back on that? Is that all right? Am I allowed to do that? Please. There's a little thing called the Supply Chain Sustainability School. It's another one of these sort of sourcing networks where you can get information. The people who are funding and partnering things like the Sustainability Supply Chain School are people like Skanska, Lend-Lease, Robert McAlpine, Morgan Sindall, Kier, Wilmot Dixon, Waits. They are the drivers. They are the people who BRE are listening to. So we've got BREEAM. We've got BREEAM. Love it or hate it, and we know that there are silly corners inside BREEAM, absolutely certainly. But these are the guys who are pushing for sustainable procurement, for responsible supply. It's not just BRE. It's actually coming from the industry and their clients.
I think you're quite right. I mean, a lot of those companies, and they're doing some great work, but there's an element of marketing there as well. and they're pushing on the back of wanting to be seen to be doing the right thing. So for me, it's about doing the right thing, not just being seen and using the buzzwords.
Let's hurry on to the next dragon. Bob, what do you make of this?
Who here's got children? Hands up. The reason why John's right is because we have a stewardship to look after the planet for those kids. So I utterly agree with him on that point of view. I also have a mother who was in Friends of the Earth in the 1970s, where the only organic restaurant in London was called Cranks. We have to get it right. I utterly agree that we can't have tick box, because tick box is pointless, which means we'll build ourselves a London office block, and we'll put in a biomass boiler, which you can't get the bloody lorry to the building with. But it got the tick box. It might surprise you also, several years ago, I tried to build the environmental version of Investors and People. Not to go to the big companies, but to the SMEs, those millions of people in little tin sheds.
Yes.
And got nothing, because everybody lives with a five-year lease. So it didn't work. You have the same issue as Sebastian. You need critical mass. To make this work, everybody's got to buy it. I think people will maybe buy in, if it's not tick box, if we actually do it. As a tech startup, I have a query of 5,000 quid. I can do quite a lot of my own research. Depends what you know already, for 5,000 quid. Mm-hmm. Okay, discuss. I really believe in what you're doing. Don't know whether it's going to work.
Strangely, neither do I. But it's not because I don't believe it.
Maybe Liz knows.
John, the questions I've got, and we probably don't want to go into the detail, but you haven't discussed the kind of requirements. You said, are they doing things right? What's doing things right? And the second kind of part of that is the PQs go into like design practices as well as manufacturers. So are you going to have requirements from lighting design consultant as well as a manufacturer to be green certified? And if so, lighting design practice, particularly small people that maybe run their own independent practice on their own in Leeds.
Liz,
my marketing, my budget's already busted on AutoCAD. So chopping out £5,000 a year to be green spec'd is worrying for me. But the underlying thing is the credibility of it. With all due respect to you, who's going to take green spec light seriously to do this? And I think the principles of it are right. I'm bang on with, on board with you with it. But you are going to have to get some industry backing from it, from either CIBSE, SLL or the wider industry for it to work for me.
Phil?
I don't actually have anything intelligent to add to that. apart from, as a sole trader, 5k, I'm out. However, on the principle of what you're doing, I'm in. So I'm in.
Thank you.
But you can't have the money.
Yeah.
I haven't asked you for it.
I'm fairly in agreement with Phil, and also the question of, I can see it working in the manufacturing chain, but further up, the design and consultants that are in the lighting industry, how does it benefit us?
Can I speak?
Very quickly.
Very
One
quickly.
sentence.
One long sentence. At the moment, this is working for concrete, and it's working for very little else. That is where the sustainability chain is currently working. It's at the very heavy end of the construction chain. As it comes down through building services, everyone, every sector will pick up on something which is unique to them. I'm not interested in charging £5,000 to a lighting designer. It's a manufacturing service. The design community, I had something through my letterbox from West Dorset County Council, District Council, saying that every commercial trader has to sign up for commercial waste. I rang them up, I said, it all goes in the bin, because it's just a bit of cardboard and some paper, that's all I do. And surely, to obey the law, I should be signing up for commercial waste. Then they're going to realise that I'm not in a commercial premises, so they're going to sort of sting me for commercial council tax. It don't work. Every sector has to be looked at separately. The consultancy industry will have its own. I'm only interested in the manufacturing industry at the moment, because that's where we've got to put it, because they're the guys who are using the stuff. We're specifying it. They're the guys who are taking it out of the ground, doing something with it, and throwing the bloody stuff away at the end.
You in or out, Jeremy?
I mean, if it doesn't cost me £5,000.
Let's get some clear answers from you. There's some ambiguity going on here. Andrew, you in or out? In. You're in. Good. Bob?
In.
2 ins, that's very good. Liz?
I'm in as long as you get industry backing.
Yeah. Phil? In and principle. 5 ins, that's very good. Although I think you might need to negotiate with them a little bit on price, John. But congratulations. 5 yeses from the Dragon.
Thank you very much.
Well
Thanks,
done.
guys.